Aaron Freeman of Locked On Falcons with Daniel Wade of Locked On Chargers here for Crossover Thursday presented by PrizePicks. Make sure you download the app and use code Locked On NFL and you'll win $50 instantly when you play $5. So let's get into some of these keys to victory, Daniel, for the LA Chargers. What are 3 things that we need to see this Chargers team do in order to emerge with a win on Sunday?
Well, Aaron, there's nothing they can do. That's why I muted myself. The Chargers will lose this game, no matter what. I don't think they have a chance. No, I mean, I think there's a lot of common denominators of what has kind of gone into most of the Chargers wins or all of the Chargers wins. But I think when you look at what happened in this last game specifically, I think the thing at the top of the list, especially playing for a Jim Harbaugh team, is just raising the level of physicality. Like, I don't think many things get under Jim Harbaugh's skin more than losing and kind of getting bullied the way that they did, right? And now you're going up against one of the top backs in Bijan Robinson and love his game. You have to be able to raise that physicality, not just offensively, but defensively as well. I think one of the big things you saw from the Chargers wide receivers is just like they got out physical. They were getting grabbed. The Ravens went into that game basically saying, we're just going to grab the hell out of everyone and make them throw the flag every single time, right? And the Chargers wide receivers outside of Ladd McConkey, who's not just a Georgia Bulldog, but just a certified dog in general, he was able to do it. The other guys weren't. So I think raising the level of physicality will be key in this one. Winning on 3rd and 4th downs. Aaron, if I was the Falcons going into this game, I would go for it on every 4th down. Okay, maybe that's maybe a slight exaggeration, but the last 3 games, opposing teams have converted every single 4th down attempt against the Chargers. 6 out of 6. 2 4th down conversions per game the Chargers are allowing over their last 3 games. And just the inability to get off the field on 3rd down for what's supposed to be a really, really good defense. The Ravens converted at over a 50% clip last week. And over the last 3 games offensively for the Chargers, they've only converted 3rd downs at a 34% clip. Not good enough. Like, it's crazy that 2 of the games were wins that we're talking about in that span. And that's what they're doing on 3rd downs. Huge reason the Chargers have been settling for too many field goals. And then kind of like you talked about, take advantage of the Falcons' lack of a pass rush, right? If you can't hold up against this group, who can you hold up against? But I do think that the matchup that'll be really interesting to watch is even maybe not having their best years, right? Grady Jarrett, David Onyemata versus a very, very poor Chargers interior. I mean, when you're looking at where the pressure has come from against this team this year, it's the interior. They have an all-pro left tackle. They have a rookie kind of phenom at tackle with Joe Alt, who's played well above his years. The interior is where the Chargers have really, really struggled. And even for a team that's averaged less than 1 sack per game this year in the Falcons, it's going to concern me going into every game. So if they can take advantage of that lack of a pass rush, let Justin Herbert pick them apart, that'll be key to a victory.
Yeah, and I hope the Falcons can take advantage of that weak interior where some of their most reliable pressure comes from linebacker Caden Ellis with some of the off-ball blitzes that they like to throw at them. But when I look at sort of the keys to victory for the Falcons, one of those is sort of keeping Justin Herbert contained. And they're going to have a hard enough time to stopping Justin Herbert's arm in this game. And so if his legs get involved, and we've seen that happen these last couple of weeks, that's going to be a nightmare for this Falcons defense. It's just going to be too much for them to handle. And that's where they need linebacker Troy Anderson, who's been battling a knee injury all season long, back healthy this week to spy. He's the only guy in the middle of that defense that has the athleticism to be able to maybe make an open field tackle against Justin Herbert if he does decide to tuck it and run. So in addition to the Falcons pass rush getting home up the middle, they're going to need that linebacker play to step up in the event that pass rush does not necessarily keep Herbert contained in the pocket. And then the other key for me is they need a fast start offensively, right? They don't want to get behind against this Chargers pass rush now that it seems like it's fully healthy with Khalil Mack working his way back, Joey Bosa, Tuli Polotau, Bud Dupree, former Falcon, and whatnot. The Falcons' offensive line, as good as it is not really built to play from behind. And so if the Chargers get off to a lead and those guys are able to pin their ears back, it's going to be trouble for the statuesque Kirk Cousins in the pocket. And basically the simple stat that basically tells me that how the Falcons start is going to kind of dictate how they win the game is when they score a touchdown in the first quarter this year, they're 5-1. When they don't, they're 1-4. So it's as simple as that. We'll probably have an answer on whether or not the Falcons are going to win this game by the end of the first quarter. If they have 7 points on the board, they got a good shot. If they don't, it's going to be a problem. So that's my second key to victory. And that last one is, win the turnover battle. It's a cliche thing, in this league, but it's so true when it comes to the Falcons. You look at their wins this year, they're +6 in turnover margin, and their losses, they're -8. Now, it's going to be hard to win a turnover battle against the Chargers because they've turned the ball over a league low 5 times this year. So they're not going to give the ball away, right? The Falcons going to have a hard time taking the ball away from this Chargers team, but if they give the ball away to the Chargers team, this is going to be a self-defeating prophecy for them. So they can't afford. Basically, I'm saying, instead of winning the turnover battle, maybe Jesse Bates can steal one from Justin Herbert, throwing it to Ladd McConkey, or maybe Quentin Johnson will drop one into AJ Terrell's hands or something like that, and they might get an interception that way. But it's one of those things where it's not really winning the turnover, but just don't turn the ball over. If you're the Falcon, don't give the Chargers extra opportunities for them to, Justin Herbert and this offense to find ways to win against a bad Falcons defense. So those are, for me, the 3 keys to victory. Daniel, what are sort of any parting thoughts for the listeners here on Locked On Chargers and Locked On Falcons on this crossover Thursday before we duck out of here?
Yeah, man, I totally agree with, what the game plan should be and kind of the ways that the Falcons can win on this one. It's interesting hearing, another team who has some of the same struggles, but also kind of has some inverse struggles that the Chargers have, right? Because the Chargers have started really hot. And I think that's why you make such a good point about the Falcons starting hot in this game, because even in this last game on Monday Night Football, it'd be easy to forget that the Chargers were up 10-0. And it hasn't been the first time that they've gotten up big and allowed a team to come back on them. So I think that for the Chargers, it's more being about a second half team, right? And not allowing those leads to go as quickly as they have. And the one thing about this Chargers team is, say what you will about them, they've always come out incredibly prepared. Like even in this last game, right? They forced 2 punts against the Ravens before they ended up going and scoring on 5 straight drives. So can the Chargers continue to be a very prepared team coming up against a team that just came off a bye week? I mean, this is a hugely pivotal game for both of these teams. Chargers have the Chiefs coming up next on their schedule, a team that they haven't beaten since 2021. And there's some teams in the AFC that could push them, right? So I think that for this matchup, it is hugely important for both of these teams' playoff implications. For the Chargers, it's like, hey, just like the defense has been in the last couple of games, you can't let this spiral, man. Like, you lost one game, you're 7-4. You got the Chiefs next week. You go lose this game, you're staring down the barrel of a 3-game losing streak, and teams like the Broncos potentially passing you, teams like the Dolphins who were outdone, them coming back a little bit and getting on your heels. So I think it's a hugely important game for both teams. And for the Chargers, a lot of those things they have to try to take away as far as your keys for victory, because that has been things that have doomed them all season long.
Well, for any Chargers out there listening, don't listen to what Daniel says. Treat this game like it's nothing. Get ready for the Chiefs game.
Overlook it.
Yes.
Overlook
the
this
Atlanta
game.
Falcons.
Man, this is go. I hope it's a weird game. I remember the last game, man. It was a weird game. Drake London recently said it was his, welcome to the NFL moment when Khalil Mack just totally like little boyed him, just stole the ball right out of his hands. And then was it Daquan Jones who just looked at Justin Herbert and fumbled after the Chargers had fumbled. He's running down the sideline. The game's pretty much over, right? And then he just fumbles. The Chargers had that happen to them this year. Tier Tar intercepted Kyler Murray, and just you realize, hey, this dude's never carried the ball offensively in his life. And then he fumbles it, and it immediately took me back to that Falcons game, that weirdo Falcons game.
Yeah, that was Taquan Graham that did the
Taquan Graham. Yeah.
So, yeah. Falcons Chargers, it's going to be a weird one. It's just the nature of these two teams. And the last 2 times they faced Justin Herbert, it has ended with Justin Herbert leading the Chargers down the field in the fourth quarter to win the game. Hopefully that won't happen a third time in a row, but we'll see.